I died in my own office, alone on the floor, clutching divorce papers and bankruptcy documents while the security cameras captured my husband and his sister celebrating in the conference room. They were toasting with champagne, my champagne from my company in my building, laughing about how stupid I'd been to trust family. The last thing I heard before the heart attack took me was my husband's voice through the wall. She actually believed we loved her. God, she made this so easy. My name is Catherine Hayes, and I died at 35, betrayed by the man I'd loved for 10 years and the sister-in-law I treated like my own family. I died broken and utterly destroyed. When I opened my eyes again, I was 25 years old, standing in a white wedding dress, looking at myself in a mirror at my wedding venue. My maid of honor, my best friend Julia, was adjusting my veil. "You look so happy," Julia said, smiling. "Daniel is so lucky." I stared at my reflection. This was my wedding day. The day I married Daniel Hayes. The day I met his sister Victoria for the first time. The day everything began. In my previous timeline, this had been the happiest day of my life. I'd married the man of my dreams, started a life with him, built a company with his support. Or so I'd thought. Now I knew the truth. Daniel had married me for my inheritance, the $10 million I'd received from my parents who died in a car accident the year before. Victoria had encouraged the marriage because she'd seen an opportunity, a naive, heartbroken girl with money and no family to protect her. Together, they'd spent 10 years systematically stealing everything I'd built. And in the end, they'd killed me. Maybe not with their hands, but they destroyed me so thoroughly that my heart had simply given up. "Cat." Julia touched my shoulder. "Are you okay? You look pale." I looked at Julia, my best friend since college, the woman who'd stood by me through my parents' death, who'd helped me plan this wedding, who'd tried to warn me about Victoria but I dismissed her concerns. In my original timeline, Julia and I had drifted apart after my marriage. Victoria had slowly poisoned my relationship with her, creating drama, manufacturing conflicts, until I'd cut Julia out of my life completely. "Julia," I said carefully, "do you still think I shouldn't marry Daniel?" Julia's eyes widened. "I never said you shouldn't. You implied it. When you met Victoria, you said something felt off about her. Cat, I don't want to ruin your wedding day with my paranoia. Tell me, please." Julia hesitated, then spoke quietly. "There's something calculated about Victoria. The way she looks at you. The way she inserts herself into every conversation about your money, your business plans, your future. It feels predatory. And Daniel loves you. I believe that. But he defers to Victoria on everything. It's like she's the decision maker and he's just following her script." In my original timeline, I'd gotten angry at Julia for saying this. I'd accused her of jealousy, of trying to ruin my happiness. I'd asked her to leave the wedding. This time I hugged her. "Thank you," I said, "for caring enough to be honest. So you're not mad?" "I'm grateful. You're the only person who sees what I'm too blind to see." "What do you mean?" I pulled back and looked at her seriously. "Julia, if I marry Daniel today, will you promise me something? Anything. Don't let me push you away. No matter what Victoria says about you, no matter what conflicts she creates, don't give up on me. Keep reminding me who I was before them." Julia looked confused but nodded. "I promise." "But Kat, what's going on? Why are you talking like this?" "Because I have a terrible feeling," I said. "And I need someone I can trust." There was a knock on the door. Daniel's voice. "Kat? Can I see you for a minute?" "Bad luck to see the bride before the wedding," Julia called out. "I know, but it's important. Just for a second." I opened the door a crack. Daniel stood there in his tuxedo, looking exactly as I remembered, handsome, charming, perfect. The man I'd loved with everything I had. The man who destroyed me. "What's wrong?" I asked. "Nothing's wrong. I just wanted to give you something." He handed me a small box. A wedding gift. Inside was a beautiful necklace. Diamonds and sapphires, clearly expensive. "Daniel, this is too much." "Nothing's too much for you. You're about to become my wife. I want you to have everything you deserve." In my original timeline, I'd been touched by this gesture. I'd worn the necklace proudly, not knowing that Daniel had bought it with a credit card in my name that Victoria had helped him open. "Where did you get the money for this?" I asked bluntly. Daniel's smile faltered slightly. I've been saving. Why? Your salary at the consulting firm is $50,000 a year. This necklace is worth at least $20,000. You couldn't have saved that much. Kat, why are you interrogating me? I wanted to do something nice. I appreciate it. But I can't accept something this expensive right now. We're about to combine our finances. I need to know we're starting on solid ground. Daniel's expression shifted. Just for a moment, I saw irritation flash across his face. Then the charm was back. You're right. I'm sorry. I just wanted to impress you. Victoria helped me pick it out and she said you'd love it. Victoria helped you buy it? She has better taste than I do. She wanted to make sure it was perfect. Did she pay for it? Kat, what's with the third degree? It's our wedding day. Did she pay for it, Daniel? He ran his hand through his hair. She loaned me the money. I'm paying her back over the next year. So you went into debt to buy me jewelry I didn't ask for. I wanted to give you something special. And Victoria just happened to have $20,000 lying around to loan you? Her business is doing well. What business? She's a personal assistant. Those don't typically pay enough to loan out $20,000 casually. Daniel's jaw tightened. Why are you being like this? This is supposed to be the happiest day of our lives, and you're ruining it with suspicion and accusations. I'm asking reasonable questions about our financial situation before we get married. You sound like you don't trust me. I'm asking you to be honest with me. Daniel stared at me for a long moment. Fine. Victoria's been investing wisely. She's done well. She offered to help me get you something nice. I thought you'd be touched. Clearly I was wrong. He turned to leave. Daniel, wait. He stopped but didn't turn around. I do appreciate the gesture. But we need to start this marriage with complete honesty about money. My inheritance isn't going to last forever if we're not careful. Your inheritance is yours, Kat. I'm not marrying you for your money. Then prove it. Sign a prenup. Daniel turned around slowly. What? A prenuptial agreement. Protecting what's mine before the marriage. You want me to sign a prenup? On our wedding day. Is that a problem? It's insulting. Says you don't trust me. That you think I'm after your money. It says I'm protecting myself. Which is smart financial planning. Kat, we're about to stand up in front of everyone we know and promise to share everything. What's mine is yours and what's yours is mine. That's what marriage means. Not legally. Legally, without a prenup, you get half of everything I earn during our marriage plus potentially a portion of assets I bring into it. I want to protect my parents' legacy. Daniel's face was red now. So you do think I'm a gold digger? I think we should both protect ourselves. I don't have anything to protect. You're the one with money. Exactly. Which is why this matters. There was another knock. Victoria's voice. Danny? Everything okay? Daniel opened the door. Victoria stood there in her bridesmaid dress. She'd insisted on being in the wedding party despite barely knowing me. She was beautiful, blonde, polished. In my original timeline, I'd been flattered that she wanted to be close to me. Now I saw her for what she was. A predator who'd spotted easy prey. What's wrong? Victoria asked, looking between us. Kat wants me to sign a prenup. On our wedding day. Victoria's eyes widened. Oh my God. Kat, that's really hurtful. It's smart business, I said calmly. It's treating my brother like a criminal. Like he's not good enough for you. Victoria put her hand on Daniel's arm. I told you her money would change things. Wealthy people don't see relationships the same way we do. I asked. Your family has money. Daniel told me you both grew up comfortable. Victoria and Daniel exchanged a glance. Define comfortable, Victoria said carefully. Daniel said your father was a successful businessman. That you both went to private school. Another glance. We exaggerated a bit, Daniel admitted. I wanted to impress you. The truth is my dad owns a small repair shop. Victoria and I went to public school. We're not from your world. In my original timeline, this revelation had come months after the wedding. I'd felt betrayed by the lie but had convinced myself it didn't matter. Love was what mattered. Now I understood it had been the first of many lies. So you lied about your background to make yourself seem more suitable for me? I embellished. There's a difference. And now you're offended that I want legal protection before marrying someone who's already proven he'll lie to get what he wants? Victoria stepped forward. Kat, I know you've been through a lot. Losing your parents, inheriting all that money, dealing with the pressure. But Daniel loves you. Really loves you. He's not perfect, but he's genuine. Prenup says you think he's going to hurt you. Is that really how you want to start your marriage? I looked at Victoria, calculating manipulative Victoria, and saw the entire game laid out. Daniel was the bait. The charming man who'd swept me off my feet when I was vulnerable and grieving. Victoria was the handler. The one pulling strings, planning strategies, ensuring I stayed trapped. In my original timeline, I hadn't signed a prenup. I'd let Victoria convince me it was unromantic, untrusting, unfair. And I'd spent the next 10 years paying for that mistake. Yes, I said. That's exactly how I want to start it. Then maybe we shouldn't get married, Daniel said quietly. My heart clenched, not from love but from the memory of loving him. Of believing in him. Of thinking we were building something real. Maybe we shouldn't, I agreed. Daniel's eyes widened. He clearly hadn't expected me to agree. You're calling off the wedding? Victoria asked, and I saw something flash in her eyes. Not concern. Calculation. She was already planning her next move. I'm postponing it until we can have a prenup drafted and reviewed. If Daniel's marrying me for love, a piece of paper protecting my inheritance shouldn't matter. But everyone's here, Daniel said. The venue, the flowers, the food. All paid for by me. I can afford to waste it. Kat, you're being crazy. I'm being careful. With a man who's already lied to me about his background, his finances, and this necklace. I took off the necklace and handed it back to him. Return this to Victoria and get your money back. We'll start this relationship honestly or not at all. I walked past them both, back into the bridal room where Julia was waiting. What happened? She asked. I need you to help me call off the wedding. Julia's eyes went huge. What? I'll explain everything. But right now, I need you to help me get out of this dress and tell everyone the wedding is postponed. Kat, are you sure? I've never been more sure of anything in my life. An hour later, I stood in front of 200 guests in jeans and a sweater, having changed out of my wedding dress. I apologize for the confusion, I said, my voice steady. The wedding is postponed. Daniel and I have some things to work out before we can commit to marriage. Thank you all for coming. Please enjoy the reception. The food's already paid for. The murmuring started immediately. I saw Daniel's mother crying. Victoria whispered urgently in Daniel's ear. My grandmother looked relieved. I walked out of the venue with Julia beside me and didn't look back. In the car, Julia finally asked, What happened? I had a moment of clarity. Daniel's been lying. His sister's been manipulating. They want my money, not me. How do you know? I couldn't tell her I'd lived through this before. Instinct. And some very suspicious financial behavior. What are you going to do? Protect myself. And hope I'm wrong about them. I wasn't wrong. Over the next week, Daniel called constantly. He sent flowers, letters, emails. He showed up at my apartment. He begged for another chance. And I made him work for it. Sign the prenup, I said every time. Kat, please. I love you. I don't care about your money. Then prove it. Finally, 2 weeks after the canceled wedding, Daniel showed up at my door with a signed prenup. I had my lawyer draft this, he said, handing me the documents. It protects everything you brought into the marriage and everything you earned during it. If we divorce, I get nothing unless you choose to give it to me. I read through it carefully. It was ironclad. Thank you, I said. Can we get married now? I need to think about whether I still want to. Daniel's face crumpled. Kat, I've done everything you asked. You lied to me about your background. You went into debt for a flashy gift to impress me. You had your sister manipulate me into feeling guilty for protecting myself. These aren't the actions of someone I can trust. I made mistakes. But I love you. Do you? Or do you love what I can give you? How can I prove it to you? Time. Distance. Let's date again. Really date. Without Victoria constantly in our business. She's my sister. She's a problem. In our relationship. If you want a future with me, she needs boundaries. Daniel was quiet for a long time. What kind of boundaries? She doesn't get to know about our finances. She doesn't get to weigh in on our decisions. She's your sister, not our third partner. She's going to be hurt. Then you need to decide who's more important, your sister or your wife. Daniel left that night without an answer. The next day, Victoria showed up at my door. We need to talk, she said. About how you're destroying my brother. I'm protecting myself. You're being paranoid and controlling. Daniel loves you. He's proven it. But you keep moving the goalposts. I asked for honesty. I got lies. I asked for a prenup. He resisted. I asked for boundaries. You're here violating them. How exactly is he proving anything? Victoria's mask slipped slightly. You think you're so smart with your dead parents' money. But you're just a scared little girl playing at being powerful. And you're a manipulative woman who saw an easy mark in a grieving daughter. I know what you are, Victoria. You don't know anything. I know you encouraged Daniel to pursue me because you saw an opportunity. I know you've been planning how to access my money since before we met. I know you're the real problem in this relationship. Daniel would never choose you over me. We're family. Then he's welcome to have you. But he doesn't get both of us. He needs to choose. Victoria's eyes narrowed. You're making a mistake, Kat. You need us more than we need you. Do I? I have money, education, friends, prospects. What do I need you for? Love, companionship, family. I can find those elsewhere. The question is, can Daniel? After Victoria left, Julia came over with wine. You're really doing this? She asked. Walking away from Daniel? I'm making him prove he's worth staying for. What if he chooses Victoria? Then I dodged a bullet. And if he chooses you? Then maybe we have a chance. 3 months later, Daniel showed up at my apartment for the 10th time. I told Victoria she needs to back off, he said. I told her we need space. She's angry, but I did it. What changed your mind? I realized you were right. She's been in my head my whole life, telling me what to do, who to be. I can't build a life with you while she's pulling the strings. What did she say when you told her? That I was making a mistake. That you're not worth it. That I'll regret this. Do you believe her? No. I believe in us. I looked at Daniel, genuinely looked at him, trying to see if this was real or another manipulation. I want to believe you, I said. But you've given me so many reasons not to trust you. I know. Which is why I'm willing to do whatever it takes. Therapy, couples counseling, complete financial transparency, anything. Move to a different city. Daniel blinked. What? Move away from Victoria. Completely. Start fresh somewhere she can't drop by whenever she wants. Kat, that's extreme. Is it? If you're serious about boundaries, about us, about building our own life, then physical distance is the only way to ensure Victoria doesn't sabotage it. She's my sister. I can't just abandon her. I'm not asking you to abandon her. I'm asking you to prioritize us. To choose a life with me over constant proximity to someone who wants to control you. Daniel looked torn. Can I think about it? Take all the time you need. But understand, this is my line. If you want to marry me, we move. If that's too much to ask, then we're not compatible. 2 weeks later, Daniel agreed to move to Seattle, 2,000 miles from Victoria. We got married in a small ceremony at City Hall with Julia and 2 other friends as witnesses. No big wedding. No drama. No Victoria. I wore a simple blue dress instead of white. Daniel wore a suit he already owned. We signed the prenup in front of the judge before we said our vows. And when we kissed as husband and wife, I felt cautiously hopeful that maybe, just maybe, I could change the trajectory of this timeline. I was wrong. The first year was good. Daniel got a job at a local consulting firm. I started my tech company, a software platform for small businesses that I knew from my previous timeline would be successful. Daniel was supportive but not involved in the business. The prenup protected everything, so I kept the company completely separate from our marriage. We bought a small house. We made friends. We built a life. And then Victoria came to visit. Just for a week, Daniel said. She misses me. I haven't seen her in a year. 1 week. I agreed reluctantly. Victoria arrived with 2 suitcases and a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Kat! She hugged me like we were friends. The house is lovely. Danny, you've done so well for yourself. Over dinner, Victoria asked pointed questions about my company. How much is it worth now? It's early stages. Not worth much. But you have investors? Some. How much have you raised? Victoria, this is my business. I don't discuss finances publicly. I'm not public. I'm family. You're my sister-in-law. That doesn't entitle you to private financial information. Victoria's smile tightened. I'm just curious about my brother's life. My business isn't Danny's business. We keep finances separate. Because of the prenup, Victoria said, making it sound dirty. Because it's smart business practice. That night I found Victoria in my home office, looking through papers on my desk. What are you doing? Victoria jumped. Oh, sorry, I was looking for a pen. There are pens in the kitchen. Right. I'll just. She tried to ease past me. What were you reading? Nothing. Just papers on your desk. Those are confidential business documents. I wasn't reading them, I just. Get out of my office. Now. Victoria's mask dropped completely. You're so paranoid. Danny was right, you've gotten worse since the wedding. Daniel said that? He worries about you. How controlling you've become. How you've isolated him from his family. He moved here willingly. Did he? Or did you manipulate him into it? Out of my office. Now. After Victoria left the room, I checked what she'd been looking at. My recent investor documents. My business plan. My financial projections. She was gathering information. The next day, I told Daniel his sister needed to leave. She just got here. She was going through my private business documents. She was probably just curious. She was violating my privacy and my trust. She leaves today or I leave. Kat, you're being unreasonable. Am I? Or am I protecting what's mine from someone who's already proven she'll lie and manipulate to get what she wants? Daniel looked at me like I was a stranger. When did you become so cold? When I learned that being warm meant being taken advantage of. Victoria left that afternoon, but not before pulling Daniel aside for a long conversation I wasn't invited to. After she was gone, Daniel was distant, cold, clearly torn between his sister and his wife. She said, "You're trying to turn me against her," he said one night. I'm not trying to turn you against anyone. I'm protecting my business. She's family. And I'm your wife. Who comes first? Daniel didn't answer. Over the next 6 months, Victoria called constantly. She'd manufactured crisis after crisis, money problems, health scares, emotional breakdowns. And every time, Daniel sent her money from his salary. I didn't object. It was his money. But I watched the pattern with growing concern. Then Victoria announced she was moving to Seattle. To be closer to family, she told Daniel on speakerphone. That's great, Daniel said, genuinely happy. I said nothing. Victoria moved into an apartment 10 minutes from our house. She got a job as a personal assistant to a local executive. And she started insinuating herself back into our lives. Sunday dinners. Weeknight drop-bys. Constant texts to Daniel. And slowly, carefully, she started poisoning him against me again. Kat seems stressed. Is she sleeping? Kat seems controlling. Does she let you make any decisions? Kat seems paranoid. Has she always been this suspicious? I watched it happen in real time, just like in my first timeline. Victoria was good. She never said anything overtly terrible. Just gentle, concerned comments that planted seeds of doubt. And Daniel, who loved his sister and wanted to believe the best in everyone, watered those seeds. My company was succeeding. We'd launched our platform and were getting significant interest from major clients. I was working 12-hour days building something real. Daniel started complaining about my work hours, about my lack of attention to our marriage, about how I'd changed. You're married to your company, he said one night after I'd canceled dinner plans for an important client meeting. I'm building something meaningful. And ignoring your husband. I'm providing for our future. We don't need more money, Kat. We need a marriage. We have a marriage. Do we? When's the last time we had sex? went on a date, had a real conversation. He was right. I'd been so focused on the business, on protecting my assets, on staying ahead of Victoria's manipulations, that I'd neglected the actual relationship. "I'm sorry," I said. "You're right. Let me hire a COO for the company. Someone to handle day-to-day so I can have better work-life balance." "That would help." I hired someone through a headhunting firm. Her name was Rebecca Foster, and she came with impeccable credentials. She was smart, organized, and experienced. She was also Victoria's friend from college. I didn't find this out until 6 months after I'd hired her. By then, Rebecca had complete access to my company's finances, operations, and client relationships. And she'd been feeding everything to Victoria. The betrayal came swift and brutal. Daniel filed for divorce, citing my workaholism and emotional neglect. With the prenup, he wasn't entitled to any of my company or personal assets. But Victoria had a plan for that too. Rebecca filed a lawsuit claiming that I'd stolen her ideas for the company, that she'd been the real founder and I'd pushed her out. She had emails, fabricated but convincing, showing that she'd been the creative force behind our success. And she wanted half the company. Simultaneously, 3 of our major clients sued us for breach of contract. The contracts had been altered, subtle changes that made us liable for damages we'd never agreed to. Rebecca had changed them after I'd signed them. With Victoria's guidance, my company, worth $20 million, was suddenly drowning in lawsuits and losing clients. And through it all, Daniel and Victoria worked together to gaslight me into believing it was all my fault. If you'd been a better wife, Daniel wouldn't have left. If you'd been a better manager, Rebecca wouldn't have sued. If you weren't so paranoid and controlling, none of this would have happened. I spent the next 3 years fighting legal battles, trying to save my company, and slowly losing everything. The stress gave me panic attacks, then high blood pressure, then warning signs of heart disease. My lawyer found evidence of the conspiracy between Victoria, Rebecca, and Daniel. But it wasn't enough for criminal charges, just enough to know I'd been systematically destroyed by people I trusted. In the end, I settled the lawsuits, gave Rebecca $5 million to go away, gave Daniel $2 million in the divorce despite the prenup, just to end it. My company never recovered. I sold it for a fraction of its worth and walked away with just enough to live on. And then 6 months after everything was finalized, I had a heart attack in my empty apartment. I was 35 years old and I'd lost everything again. The last thing I saw before I died was a news alert on my phone. Victoria Hayes and Daniel Hayes announce engagement after 3 years of dating. My husband and his sister. Together. Just like I'd suspected. And then everything went black. When I opened my eyes again, I was 25 years old, standing in a white wedding dress, looking at myself in a mirror. "You look so happy," Julia said, smiling. "Daniel is so lucky." This time I was ready. This time I wouldn't make the same mistakes. This time Victoria and Daniel would get exactly what they deserved. Nothing. "Julia," I said calmly, "I need you to help me call off this wedding. Immediately." Julia's eyes widened. "What? Why?" "Because I'm about to make the smartest decision of my life." I walked out of that bridal room, stood in front of 200 guests, and said the words that would change everything. "The wedding is canceled. Permanently. Daniel Hayes and I are not getting married today, tomorrow, or ever. Thank you for coming. The reception is still on. Eat, drink, enjoy yourselves. Consider it a celebration of my freedom." I walked out of that venue and never looked back. And that was just the beginning of my revenge. The next morning I woke up in my apartment, the one I'd kept in my name only, thank God, and made a list. Everything I knew about Victoria and Daniel's plans. Everything they'd done in my first timeline. Every manipulation, every lie, every betrayal. I couldn't tell anyone I'd been reborn, but I could use my knowledge to protect myself and destroy them. First, I called my lawyer. "Martin, I need you to draft the most ironclad asset protection structure you've ever created. Trusts, LLCs, offshore accounts. Everything legal but completely untouchable." "Kat, what's going on? I'm protecting myself from future threats." "Can you do it?" "Of course. But this seems extreme for someone who just called off her wedding." "Trust me. It's necessary." Second, I called my financial advisor. Linda, I want to invest my inheritance aggressively in tech companies. I gave her a list of companies I knew would explode in value over the next 10 years, companies I'd watch succeed in my first timeline. These are all risky startups. I'm willing to take the risk, diversify across all of them. Kat, are you sure? You could lose everything. I won't. Trust me. Third, I called Julia. I need you to help me with something. Something that's going to sound crazy. After yesterday, nothing sounds crazy anymore. I need you to help me investigate Victoria Hayes. Everything about her. Her finances, her past, her connections. Why? Because I think she's dangerous. And I think Daniel was with me because of her. You think she pushed him to marry you? I think she planned the whole thing. Julia was quiet. I'll help. But Kat, if we're going to investigate someone, we need to be careful. Legal. No lines crossed. Agreed. I just need information. Over the next month, Julia and I dug into Victoria's background. We found things that made my blood run cold. Victoria had a pattern. 3 previous relationships with wealthy men. All had ended badly for the men. Bankruptcy, business failures, mysterious asset transfers. One had committed suicide. She's done this before, Julia said, staring at the evidence we'd compiled. She finds vulnerable wealthy people, gets close to them, destroys them financially. And Daniel. He's her brother. They work together. He's the face, she's the brain. We need to warn people. With what proof? Everything we have is circumstantial. Pattern recognition, not evidence. Then we need to catch them in the act. Doing what? Trying to destroy someone else. I set the trap carefully. I let it leak through mutual friends that I was devastated by the canceled wedding, that I was lonely, that I was looking for connection, and I waited for Victoria to make her move. Took 3 weeks. Daniel showed up at my door with flowers. Kat, I'm so sorry. I've been a fool. Victoria helped me see that you were right about everything. About the prenup, about boundaries, about us needing space from her. Really? Really? She even said she's moving back east. To give us a fresh start. That's surprising. She loves me. She wants me to be happy. And you make me happy. In my first timeline, I would have believed this. I would have taken him back, grateful for another chance. This time I knew better. That's wonderful, Daniel. I'm glad Victoria's being supportive. So we can try again? Maybe not marriage right away, but dating. I need time to think about it. What you're asking for is trust, and you've broken that. I know. Which is why I'm willing to work for it. Therapy. Couples counseling. Whatever you need. Let me think about it. After Daniel left, I called Julia. He made contact. Just like I thought he would. What's the play? I'm going to date him. Act like I'm falling for it. And document everything. Over the next 3 months, I dated Daniel. I let him slowly gain my trust. I talked about my business plans, my tech company idea that I knew would be successful. And I watched as he fed every piece of information directly to Victoria. I knew because I'd hired a private investigator to follow him. Every meeting with Victoria was documented. Every phone call recorded. They're planning something, Julia said, reviewing the evidence. She keeps telling him to be patient and stick to the plan. They're waiting for me to start my company and let my guard down. So what do? We accelerate the timeline. I told Daniel I wanted to start my company, that I'd been working on a business plan for a software platform for small businesses. That sounds amazing, Daniel said, his eyes lighting up with what I now recognized as greed, not pride. I could help you. I have business experience. Actually, I was hoping you'd stay separate from the business. I want one part of my life that's just mine. I watched disappointment flicker across his face. Of course. Whatever makes you comfortable. That night, Daniel met with Victoria. My investigator recorded the entire conversation. She won't let me into the business. Then we need another approach. What's her weakness? She trusts Julia. Her best friend. Can we use that? Maybe. If we can drive a wedge between them, Kat becomes isolated. Easier to manipulate. And the business? She's looking for a COO. Someone to handle operations while she focuses on product development. Perfect. I know someone. Rebecca Foster. Just like in my first timeline. But this time I was ready. When Rebecca applied for the COO position, I ran the most thorough background check possible. I found her connection to Victoria immediately. And I hired her anyway. Are you insane? Julia asked. You know she's working with them. Exactly. Which means I can control what information she gets. Feed her what I want Victoria to know. This is dangerous. This is necessary. I need Victoria to think she's winning. To get confident. To make mistakes. Over the next year, I ran my company with Rebecca as COO, but I kept her away from anything truly important. I gave her fake financials to pass to Victoria. I fed her false information about our client contracts, our funding, our growth. Meanwhile, the real company, structured through trusts and LLCs that Rebecca didn't know about, was thriving. I also wore a wire to every meeting with Daniel, recorded every conversation, documented every lie, and slowly, carefully, I built an airtight case of conspiracy to commit fraud. When I had enough evidence, I went to the FBI. This is a pattern of behavior spanning 5 years and multiple victims. I told the agent, laying out everything Julia and I had found. Victoria Hayes and Daniel Hayes systematically target wealthy individuals, infiltrate their lives, and destroy them financially. The agent reviewed the evidence. This is compelling, but we'd need cooperation from previous victims. I have statements from 2 of them, willing to testify. Julia had tracked them down. Men who'd been destroyed by Victoria and had nothing left to lose. We also need proof of active conspiracy. I played the recordings. Daniel and Victoria planning my destruction. Rebecca agreeing to sabotage my company. All of it captured clearly. How did you get these recordings? I'm in a relationship with one of the conspirators. I was protecting myself. Everything was recorded in places where I had a reasonable expectation that my conversations might be monitored. My home, my office, my car. The agent looked at me with new respect. You've been playing them this whole time. I've been protecting myself. This is enough for warrants. But Kat, if we move forward, these people will know you've been setting them up. They might become dangerous. They're already dangerous. At least this way, they'll be in prison. The arrests happened simultaneously. Victoria at her apartment. Daniel at our favorite restaurant, where he'd been planning to propose again. Rebecca at my company's office. All 3 were charged with conspiracy to commit fraud, wire fraud, and in Victoria's case, connection to the suspicious death of her previous victim. The trial was brutal. Victoria's lawyer painted me as a paranoid, vengeful woman who'd fabricated evidence because she couldn't accept that Daniel didn't love her. But the evidence was overwhelming. Previous victims testified. Recordings were played. Financial records showed clear patterns of asset manipulation. The jury deliberated for 6 hours. Guilty on all counts. Victoria got 15 years. Daniel got 10. Rebecca got 5. As they were led away, Victoria looked at me with pure hatred. You think you won? You're going to die alone. Nobody will ever love you after this. I'd rather die alone and free than live loved and destroyed, I replied. After the trial, Julia asked me how I'd known to protect myself so thoroughly. Instinct, I lied. I saw the patterns and trusted my gut. You saved yourself, Kat. And probably saved other people from becoming their victims. I just did what I had to do. With Victoria and Daniel in prison, I finally felt safe enough to let my company truly flourish. The software platform I built became the industry standard for small business management. Within 3 years, we were valued at $50 million. I never married, never seriously dated. The experience with Daniel had taught me that I was complete on my own. Instead, I poured my energy into building something meaningful. I hired people I could trust, thoroughly vetted, completely transparent. I built a company culture based on honesty and merit. And I made sure that Julia was taken care of. She'd stood by me when everyone else thought I was crazy. She deserved to share in the success. When I was 45, a journalist contacted me about writing a profile piece about my company's success. During the interview, she asked about my personal life. You've built an empire, but you've never married, never had children. Do you regret that? No, I said honestly. I had a choice: build a life with someone who would destroy me, or build a life for myself that no one could take away. I chose freedom. Some people would say that's lonely. Some people confuse being alone with being lonely. I'm alone by choice. I'm surrounded by people I trust, work I love, and a legacy I'm proud of. That's not lonely. That's liberation. The article went viral. I received thousands of messages from women who'd been in similar situations, who'd been manipulated, controlled, destroyed by people they trusted. I started a foundation to help them. Legal aid for women escaping financial abuse. Business grants for women rebuilding after betrayal. Support systems for survivors. And I named it after the lesson I'd learned the hardest way possible. The Second Chance Foundation. When I was 55, I received a letter from Victoria. She was up for parole and wanted to apologize. I read the letter once and threw it away. She got parole denied. Daniel was released after 7 years for good behavior. He tried to contact me once through a mutual acquaintance. The message was simple. I'm sorry. You were right about everything. Victoria destroyed me too. I sent back an equally simple response. I know. That's why I made sure you both went to prison. I never heard from him again. When I was 65, I sold my company for $200 million. I'd built it from nothing, protected it fiercely, and turned it into something that mattered. I retired and spent my time traveling, mentoring young entrepreneurs, and funding causes I believed in. Julia was with me through it all. She'd married, had children, and built her own successful career. But we remained best friends, the constant in each other's lives. You know what I realized? Julia said one day as we sat on my porch watching the sunset. What? You're the strongest person I've ever known. Not because you survived what they tried to do to you, but because you thrived despite it. I had help. You helped. You would have survived without me. But I'm glad I got to be part of your story. Me too. When I was 75, I was diagnosed with cancer. Treatable but aggressive. I fought it with the same determination I'd fought Victoria and Daniel. And I won. At 80 years old, I sat in my home surrounded by the people I loved, Julia and her children, the men who'd become like family, the employees who'd grown with my company. Tell us the story again, Julia's youngest granddaughter asked. About how you escaped the bad people. I didn't escape them, I said. I defeated them. There's a difference. How? I trusted myself. I protected what was mine. And I refused to let anyone make me feel guilty for being strong. That's a good story. It's a true story. That night I went to bed feeling complete. I'd lived 2 lifetimes, one where I'd been destroyed, one where I'd been victorious. And I knew which ending I preferred. I died peacefully in my sleep at age 81, surrounded by people who genuinely loved me for who I was, not what I could give them. And when my will was read, those same people, Julia's family, my ments, my foundation, inherited everything. Victoria and Daniel, both still alive but broken and irrelevant, got nothing. Not even a mention. Epilogue. 20 years later. Julia's granddaughter, Catherine, named after me, stood in front of a business class giving a presentation. My great-grandmother Catherine Hayes built one of the most successful software companies of her generation, she said, pulling up my photo. But that's not the most important thing she did. The most important thing she did was protect herself from people who wanted to destroy her, and then use that experience to help thousands of other women do the same. Catherine pulled up the next slide. A photo of Victoria and Daniel's mugshots. These people tried to destroy her through manipulation, fraud, and abuse. In another version of her life, they succeeded. She lost everything and died alone. But in this version, she saw them coming. She protected herself. She documented their crimes. And she made sure they faced consequences. Some people said she was paranoid. Some said she was cold. Some said she should forgive and forget. But my great-grandmother understood something important. Forgiveness doesn't mean letting people who hurt you continue to hurt others. Justice isn't vengeance. Protection isn't paranoia. She built a foundation that has helped over 50,000 women escape financial abuse. She created a company that employed thousands. She lived to 81 years old surrounded by people who loved her. And the people who tried to destroy her? They died forgotten, having destroyed no one but themselves. Catherine looked out at the class. The lesson isn't that you should be suspicious of everyone. It's that you should trust yourself when something feels wrong. Protect yourself when you sense danger. And never, ever feel guilty for choosing your own survival. She clicked to the final slide. A quote from my last interview. I was given a second chance at life. Not everyone gets that gift. I chose to use it wisely, not to seek revenge but to build something better. To protect others the way I wish someone had protected me. That's not vengeance. That's justice. And it's the best legacy I could leave. The class applauded. And somewhere in whatever comes after, I smiled. I died twice. Once destroyed by trusting the wrong people. Once fulfilled by trusting myself. The difference was everything. My name is Catherine Hayes. I died at 35, betrayed by my husband and sister-in-law. I was reborn at 25 with a second chance. I lived to 81 victorious, free, and surrounded by genuine love. And I spent 40 years making sure no one else would suffer what I'd survived. That's not a tragedy. That's a triumph.